A whimsical Wednesday morning to you. Welcome into SimWorld today. I am Marsh, joined this Wednesday, as we are every Wednesday, by the one, the only Ceej. Get on in here, Ceej. How you doing this fine Wednesday morning?
I'm doing whimsical, feeling silly, feeling a little light, nothing crazy.
I can't imagine a time where feeling whimsical would be a bad thing. That's all I got to say on that. Who's not feeling whimsical are both the Dallas Mavericks and potentially the Boston Celtics. Celtics are now going to be without Kristaps Porzingis because of a torn medial retinaculum, allowing a dislocation of the posterior tibialis tendon. And everybody knows where all of that is and how difficult that can be to deal with. So he's questionable for game 3 as the Dallas Mavericks return home with hopes of avoiding an O-3 hole. Siege, what are they going to have to do, injury aside, to get back into the series and protect home court?
Well, first of all, I want to give you your flowers on completing your doctorate. That's awesome. Proud
Thank
of
you,
you.
Dr. Marsh.
Uh, Dr. Marsh. And second of all, I hate reducing, what makes you win, what doesn't to one player. So I'm not going to reduce it fully. But the first leg is Mr. Irving, Mr. Kyrie Irving, Mr. Flat Earth, whatever you want to call him. Super talented basketball player, but he hasn't looked like one in the finals so far. It's been pretty rough. Not just rough for what Kyrie's been doing, but rough for anyone who's on the floor in the finals. They need him. They need him. This whole Dallas culture, this whole Dallas scheme, this whole Dallas game plan, everything is kind of rested on Luka and Kyrie both being the top level playmakers, the top level scorers that they are. And if he's not going to be able to do that against the Celtics defense, then, well, the Celtics defense has proven that their defense really is a step above all the rest. Drew Holiday's been sensational. I don't know that you need to necessarily slow him down on offense, but you need to find a way to maybe get him switched off of Kyrie a little more often. You need to do whatever you need to do to get Kyrie free and get him going, because if he's going to continue having poor games, they're going to continue losing games.
Yeah, Kyrie is you're spot on there. Number one, I think that they need to do a better job as well of getting more activity for Luka and Kyrie off ball. I said this on Monday's podcast. I think Dante Exum should be much more focal in this. I thought in the second half of that game too, where they were able to do Luka off ball and they would just set up Dante Exum, typically was on the left wing, and they would just do an off ball screen for Luka, get him moving as he's getting the ball, and then he's able to attack from there as opposed to just stationary and start just going to work, because the Celtics have a lot of good point of attack defenders, and they have guys that have done a pretty decent job on just eliminating Luka's avenues to get open looks. That's what they need to do, Dallas, is find open looks. Obviously, you need PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. to shoot better from three, but that's honestly, I think this is, as we've said many times before, regressing to the mean. Those guys are really good, but they aren't elite shooters, and for the first like 2 rounds, they were. So to Kyrie's point, he does have to be better. But I think finding other ways to say, Kyrie, let's not operate with you as the first and last playmaker of a play, but rather get the ball swinging in multiple directions, because that's what Boston does. Boston has a great arsenal of guys that they can get going downhill that then creates subsequent much better looks, easier looks, and more advantageous looks for Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis. So finding ways to make your stars not ISO heavy, which is what Dallas is predicated off of, I think will help them in the long run. The Porzingis injury, I'm curious your thoughts. Is that something that you think is a giant swaying point of this series?
I think it could be. I do think it could be. I think they have to find a way to attack that weakness without Porzingis. Porzingis is their best rim protector ever since they got rid of Robert Williams, but he's their best rim protector. Al Horford, yes, Al Horford's great. I got no problem with Al Horford, but
Mm-hmm.
he's not quite the spry young guy he used to be. Can you use PJ Washington? Can you use Derek Lively? Can you use Daniel Gafford to attack a slower, maybe a little less athletic Al Horford instead of having the 7'3" Kristaps Porzingis, who has the wingspan of the size of a Chevy SUV? Yeah, I think that it could be a swinging point. Do I think it's an immediate Kristaps is out, the Celtics can't win thing? No, of course not. But I do think if attacked correctly and if able to get, like you said, the ball moving a little bit more and going downhill a little more for the Mavs in more of a rotational kind of thing, then I think it absolutely can be. It could be a huge hole.
It makes the defense for the Mavs a heck of a lot easier because you don't have to worry about switching nearly as much or be afraid to switch nearly as much because you want the size on Porzingis. If he's not out there and you're switching, who any Kyrie, PJ Washington, Derrick Jones on to Al Horford if they put him into a pick and roll, I'm fine with that because Al might hit a couple threes, but I'm really not afraid of him as a downhill threat. All right, let's go to prep where we had 4 more games last night, and I don't know if I'd call it the biggest one, but it certainly felt the most competitive, and that was Gulf Coast Lockdown and Yacht Club. And Yacht Club gets the win in a huge, huge night for them. Just to pick one up, Darius McBride, 21 points in 29 minutes. But the big story of this one is the bold proclamations, which, as they've aged, I've loved more and more from Coach Heesh, ultimately fall 3 wins short. I think 3 wins, maybe 4 wins. But anyway, a couple wins short as they bow out in the opening round. Your thoughts on that Yacht Club Gulf Coast game? And Heesh not being a puppet.
Well, I think, first of all, great game, very competitive game. The final score might fool some people a little bit, but Yacht Club really controlled this game the whole way. Gulf Coast was able to kind of come back, make a couple runs, and do their thing to make it a close game. And I'm not surprised with that. This team has, been a fighting team all season long. But the Yacht Club did control this game the length of the game. And if I'm the Yacht Club right now, I'm kind of looking and I'm saying I'm more than okay with the way this game turned out. Obviously, because we got to win, but also because we we weren't really fighting. The Yacht Club was not fighting. The Yacht Club was leading. The Yacht Club was running away for most of the game. Gulf Coast kind of had to be that fighting team. And yeah, Coach Sheesh, his expectations didn't get met. He made some early season comments, some off season comments, and just being confident in his guys and confident in himself. And so I'm not going to really hold that against him too much. But you put things out there, people are going to remember it. This is a really young team. They'll be back next year, I'm sure. But right now, the Yacht Club looks a lot better than I expected them to coming into the run to one. I'll say that for sure.
I thought the Yacht Club did a fantastic job of taking advantage of their places that they could take advantage of. I thought that the big key to this thing for Gulf Coast was to have their bigs be impactful. Avery Cooks, Ezekiel Bull, and when they would play him, Deontay Joyce. Deontay Joyce played 5 minutes. I thought that was far too few. I'm not saying Joyce is a 30-minute game, but he averaged about 13 per game this season, and he averaged about 5 points. He was active when he was on the floor. Wasn't that in this one? They dared Gulf Coast to beat them with Ezekiel Bull. And Josiah Cook did a fantastic job of saying that's not going to happen. Bull was 4 of 11. Sure, he had 12 boards. Sure, he had a double-double with 10 points. But Bull, when this team was great, Gulf Coast, it was Bull and it was Cooks assaulting the rim. And they took out half of that equation and said, if you want Ezekiel Bull to take all these shots, he's not going to make them. And I thought that is what allowed the Yacht Club to take command of this thing early on. They led by 7 right out the gate. They were leading throughout this game, as you mentioned. It did look nice at the end of it, but it was a game in which Yacht Club played to what the game they wanted it to be. And I think in tournament play, especially one loss, one win type of scenarios, you need to be able to control the game to be the type of play style as a whole that you want it. And what the Yacht Club clearly wanted was, we've got the defensive player of the year. We want to play a defensive rock'em sock'em robots type of game. And we're going to say, this is how we're going to be beat. It's going to have to be a big night from Ezekiel Bull. And ultimately, it wasn't. But to your point, this is a very young team. I don't think that I look at Gulf Coast next season and think any less of them, just like I probably think very similar about a similar team that got bumped out, Cascadia. These losses highlight the inefficiencies, but they don't highlight and prove that those inefficiencies and deficiencies are the truth. And I think Gulf Coast has a great opportunity next season, particularly with Kai Killens coming back, to be able to be a dominant basketball club. Let's head to one other and our final piece of the afternoon, and we have some breaking news, and that is that one and only Monte Parson out of Philadelphia Elite, who got the win last night, has committed to the Ohio State University. He has a couple seasons left to SimWorld Prep, but he's headed to the big Block O in Columbus. Ceej, first off, congratulations to Monte Parson. Ceej, your thoughts on this?
Absolutely, congratulations. I'm a little surprised you got a guy like Monte Parson, and maybe this works this way as well, but I'm a little surprised you got a guy this young who's already saying, I'm ready to go. Now, obviously, it's a soft commit. He can change. So maybe that's the whole point. But to me, when you soft commit, there are some schools that are not maybe going to offer you that would have otherwise because they see you're committed to this other school. But first and foremost, most importantly, congrats to him. That's a wonderful – Ohio State has a wonderful basketball program. He'll fit right in there, to be honest. But he's got a lot of time left. So I'm not set on the idea that he's going to be headed there. But we'll see. But congratulations. They got a great player. He's absolutely sensational.
We do. We have a quote from him. Here we go. Quote, my goal in prep is to get to college for free. Good for him. I really love the Midwest. Bold. And as the former Mr. Ohio, getting a chance to rep for the home team and achieve my goal of getting higher education got me singing, I'm coming home. End quote. So, Ohio State Buckeyes get Monte Parson, to your point, soft commit, which means he can depart should he want to. But judging by those comments and judging by the fact that this is a Power 5 school, I would be stunned if Monte Parson changes heart. Certainly possible. Based off any number of factors. But as of today, June 12th, Monte Parson, an Ohio State Buckeye in 3 seasons, because it's 15, which is a scary thought to have of Monte Parson upside at 15 years old, but off to Ohio State. All right, that is our show. We're coming back tomorrow morning with Ceej yet again, I believe, and we're going to be talking about all sorts of fun stuff, most notably SWBA championship game, game 3 in the finals. So, Ceej, thanks for joining us. Thank you all for tuning in. We will be back here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld.